Hi everyone. Today at Little Bohemians, I'm going to talk about naps and sleeping. I know this is a huge issue for lots of parents, and believe me, I have 4 kids of my own, and I suffered right along with all of you. But there's a few things I've learned over the last, 12 years doing my own in-home daycare, and actually my time working at larger centers as well, because in those situations I used to have to help put down a lot of kids, get them down for nap at the same time. So that was a whole nother thing, but hopefully you're not putting down like 8 kids at once. And here at Little Bohemians I only have 4 kids napping a day, so it's a lot easier. And I don't put them down all at once. Sometimes my kids all go to sleep at the same time. It depends on their ages and everything. But that's another topic. Anyway, helping children get to sleep. So first of all, I think the myth that parents, including myself, think is that, kids know how to fall asleep by themselves. They just, when they're infants, they just fall asleep. Of course they do. As they get a little bit older, and there's a RIE practitioner, which is Research for Infant Educators, and she wrote, I don't remember her name's in my book, but she said that basically kids should learn how to fall asleep by the time they're about 6 to 8 months old, I think she said. So what that means is that, yeah, kids don't innately know how to go to sleep. Initially they do, they're infants, they just sleep all the time, but as you notice, as they get older, and the difficulty of getting them to go to sleep, it's a problem, and this is why, because we need to teach them how to go to sleep. So one of the things we do as parents, and again, I'm right there, nurse them to sleep. Great, of course. And the other thing is maybe rock them to sleep. And as they get a little bit older, sometimes we do kind of like an elaborate nighttime ritual. We brush teeth, we go to the bathroom, we read them a book, we sing them a song, like on and on and on, all these things. So those things are really sweet, and I like those. But I'm just talking about, how we set up our child's ability to fall asleep or not. I think what we tend to do as parents is do that stuff for too long, basically. The best thing really to do is to teach them that it's time to go to sleep, and they need to go to sleep. So I'll tell you what I do here at my daycare. So I always ask parents when they come in, what their bedtime ritual is, and it's widely varied. And I know that it's not going to be the same for me here, but I like to know what they've been doing. So for instance, if a child gets back pats to go to sleep or rocked, I know they need a little help with soothing to get them to sleep. So basically my kids here at my childcare, we go in and they get in there, I either lift them into the pack and play, or they lay down on their floor mat, and I say good night, have a beautiful nap, and they go to sleep. They just really go right to sleep. And parents don't believe me, but this is what happens day in and day out. The reason is because when they come to me, this is the routine I've set up with them. They come to me and they don't know what I'm going to do. It's nap time. They're smart enough to know that it's not the same as at home. First of all, we're in a different place. I'm a different person than their caregiver, their primary caregiver at home. So it's going to be different here. So within a couple of days, they know the routine, which is all of us walk in together, those of them that are sleeping at the same time. One at a time, I put them to bed, I say goodnight, and they go to sleep. So kids right off the bat here understand that they're expected just to go to sleep. And so again, I help them to achieve that. Let's see, what do I do? Well, for littler ones, they do like to have their backs rubbed or patted. I do the old pat their backs and get lighter and lighter and then sneak out. I've had to do that lots of times. My goal is to teach them to not need that anymore. And with some of the older kids, what have I done? I go in and talk to them and tell them, your friends are sleeping, it's time to go to sleep. But generally they all fall asleep really quickly. What I've found over the years consistently is 2 things that help children go to sleep right away. And that is, number 1, if I can get them to lay down. That's the first key, because once they're laying down, they're always tired and they will always fall asleep if they're laying down. And number 2 is if you have a child who's very verbal and very talkative, if I can get them to be quiet, then they will go to sleep. But actually the being quiet part is rare. Usually if I can just get them to lay down, that's the key. So a couple things I do. I have an audio monitor in some of the nap rooms for the kids that I know, how they're sleeping, and I know their routine. For the newer kids that I've just got, I have my video monitor so I can watch them and see what they do. And across ages, what I see that they do is stand up. They're either standing up, when they're supposed to be laying down in the mat, or they're standing up in the pack and play. So it's really easy with a little one. You just go and you take them and lay them down, say, time to lay down, good night, it's nap time, and you move, and then they're going to pop up again, and you say to them, lay down, and really within telling them to lay down half dozen times, they'll stay down. I mean, kids are smart and they understand what you mean. I'm talking about children that are at age where they can understand that, which is probably about a year old. They understand. I just have a child that came in, and by the time the child was 14 months old, they just laid down and went to sleep. But again, occasionally I have to remind them, time to lay down, and then once I can get them to lay down and stay there, then they go right to sleep. The older kids, same thing. They'll stand up in the pack and play, or they'll be sitting up, and I'll just remind them, you need to lay down, and once I can get them to lay down, they will fall asleep. So those are kind of the keys. Set up a realistic routine where you're not going to keep coming back in a million times and, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I want a bedtime story. And if you've been doing that, that's okay. And if that works for you and you don't mind that extended time, that's fine. That's up to you, totally up to you. But if you do want your children to go to sleep for bedtime, you need to teach them how to go to sleep, and these are some of the things to try. So try those things. Try and think if there's anything else. I think, for the littler kids, I make sure their tummy's full. So if they're gonna do 2 naps as opposed to 1 nap after lunch, which is what my older children do, with the little ones, I make sure their tummy is full before they go to sleep. So I'll give them a little snack before bedtime. That's why some kids have bottles before bedtime, because full tummy, I think, they remember the times of being an infant, and the full tummy helps them fall asleep. It still works. It still works. So give them something, not a lot, because if they're crying and upset, you don't want them to, get physically sick. But yeah, you just have to make the routine for them and help them to realize that they can go to sleep on their own. And so that's my advice. And good luck to you. If you have any questions, you can ask below, and I'll say goodbye now. Thanks.